Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ooh, that was kind of loud, wasn't it? I think I peaked there. All right, there we are. Yes, what's shaking, everybody? It's 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on this Wednesday, May the 29th, 2019, and I was just wrapping up some stuff in the old voiceover booth, and I thought I would come on and see how you guys are doing. This is just a impromptu little AMA, nothing crazy. We'll see who wanders in, but it is the eve of the NBA Finals. Now, I wouldn't say that I'm a basketball fan, I'm a hockey fan for sure. It's kind of hard to... Now, there are a lot of people who live in Canada who grew up in Canada who have no interest in hockey. But I'm more of a hockey fan than I am a basketball fan. But I've always enjoyed watching the Raptors play, and got my Raptors hat on here, and tomorrow night they're in the NBA Finals, and it's game one from Toronto. And it's kind of exciting, and the last time any of our major sports teams were in a championship, minus the TFC, which stands for Toronto Football Club, our soccer team. They're part of the MLS, which is Major League Soccer. But Major League Soccer, even though there are teams in Canada and the US, it's not considered one of the four major sports leagues, because it is not the Premier League or at the top of the at the top of the list, so to speak, in terms of the best leagues in the world when it comes to soccer. That doesn't mean that MLS won't come a long way, or sorry, won't come to its own. But really, the premier sports leagues are the NBA, the NHL, MLB, and the NFL, and they are the top leagues of their kind. So it's been since the back-to-back from the Blue Jays in 92-93 that Toronto has had one of their major sports teams in the championship finals. So this is really cool. And I thought I wanted to jump on the eve of this finals and talk to you guys, of course, answer any questions you might have, but also just kind of give you some insight into what the city of Toronto is about, for those of you that might not know, because as a Canadian who lives in Toronto, I was born in Toronto. I haven't lived my whole life here, but there's a lot of stereotypes and a lot of misconceptions that come with Canada and Toronto as a whole. And because a lot of the major sports networks like ESPN and Fox and TNT and ABC, they're not that that's a major sports network, but they're the ones that are carrying. They are the one that is carrying the games. They have all, ascended onto Toronto. Ascended. Yeah, I think that's right. I always get those two back to front. Anyway, they've come to Toronto, and I was watching some of the coverage, and I always find it interesting and fascinating to watch the American coverage. Like, I haven't been watching any of the Canadian coverage at all when it comes to this, because I know what they're going to say. I watch them all the time when it's just about other stuff. So I'm not watching TSN, I'm not watching Sportsnet, I'm not watching CBC, CTV, which is, the major networks here in Canada. I'm watching and YouTubing a lot of the American coverage because I find it interesting. The naivete, if I could use that word, of a lot of you Americans. I don't mean you Americans. I mean the Americans as a whole when it comes to Canada and especially Toronto. And what a lot of people don't realize about the city of Toronto is that we are the fourth largest city in North America. And now, when it comes to the broader sort of region, of course, that we fall down a bit, because there's about, I think the GTA, which is the Greater Toronto Area, is closing in on 7 million people, and then the city of Toronto itself has about 3 million. So when you include the city of Toronto and the Greater Toronto Area, we're close to 10 million people. But of course, if you want to talk about New York and Chicago and Atlanta and LA, I mean, you have the city, but then you have like, depending on, where you are, you could have like 20 million people in the entire like broader region. So then it gets a little suspect. But the city of Toronto itself is the fourth largest in North America, and it is a big, big city. If this city was in the States, it would go New York, LA, Toronto. So, but not a lot of people know that. And we also have one of the busiest highways in North America, which is the 401. And there's a stretch between the west end of Toronto and the furthest east end of Toronto, which is very big. Very busy. And the amount of cars, it's busier than highways in Houston and in Dallas and in LA, and a lot of people that aren't familiar with that are like, really, guys? Because there's this idea that when you think of Canada, you think of this picturesque, the mountains and the wilderness and nice people and and saying things like, I'm sorry, and we're all nice, and we live, well, sure, we live in some cities, but it's not. But the Americanized, the big hustle bustle, skyscraper sort of New York, Chicago kind of thing, you don't think of when you think of Canada. But the fact of the matter is, it's true. We have it. And especially Toronto. And that's why a lot of people, even in Canada, don't like Toronto. Toronto gets a bad rap. There's things, people will say, people from Toronto are arrogant. People from Toronto are egotistical. People from Toronto think they live in the center of the universe. And it's just like, no, it's just, we're a big city. And we are the New York of this country. Like in New York, you have all of the major financial banking headquarters are in New York. Well, that's what it's like here, right? Every country has their major hub, right? Britain's got London, right? The U.S. has got New York, Japan's got Tokyo, you can go along the list, and there's always those big major. In Canada, it would be Toronto. It's just where the world headquarters. It is the sports capital, the entertainment capital, the financial capital, the cultural capital. The media capital. It's also, I believe, the third or fourth largest media production center in North America as well. And for you movie buffs out there, because obviously we usually talk about movies on this channel, we have one of the largest sound stages in North America at Pinewood, Toronto. You've often heard of Pinewood in Britain, right? Well, Toronto has a studio as well called Pinewood, and we have, I think it's called the Mega Stage, and it's fucking huge. It's the largest sound stage in North America, and that's kind of cool as well. Obviously, the Toronto International Film Festival is the second largest film festival in the world, and arguably one of, if not the most important film festival, because it happens every September, which is sort of the unofficial kickoff to Oscar season, or as I like to say, the unofficial kickoff to lobbying. I'll take you out to lunch and woo you, and maybe you could vote for my movie, and because that's essentially what it's all about. But nonetheless, you got to play the game. But that is true. And then, of course, the CN Tower, right? For those of you that don't know what the CN Tower is, because some Americans may not. Here is, this is, I believe, let me go here. This is a, one second. Is this, let me go to, one sec. There we go. Okay, you guys can still hear me, right? So this is the skyline of Tirana, and that big thing right in the center there is the CN Tower, and that was from 1976, the time it was built, all the way to 2007. That was, Hallow says, I think everyone knows the CN Tower. You'd be surprised. A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. So that's why I'm talking about it. But anyway, it was the tallest structure in the world from 1976 to 2007. And then the Burj Khalifa took it over. And of course, that is the tallest building in the world by a long shot. That's almost 2 CN Towers. But the CN Tower, as of right now, is still the tallest tower, the tallest structure, if you will, in the Western Hemisphere. It's 1,815 feet tall. It's 181 building stories tall. And that big observation circle there in the middle, you can actually go higher than that, but that is 113 or 116 building stories. And you can actually go out onto this thing called the Edge Walk, and you can walk around the edge of the tower harnessed in, and you can, yeah, it's a really cool thing. If you want to know more about it, just look up Edge Walk. But anyway, yeah, so that's really cool. Like, I mean, but I've talked, look, in my work, I speak to a lot of Americans, and I deal with a lot of people in the States, and everybody knows about Toronto, sure, because it's a major global city. But I could show you a picture. I've shown a picture of the CN Tower. You're like, what is that? The Space Needle in Seattle? You know, what is that? It's CN Tower, the CN Tower. Not a lot of people know about, and it's actually a shame because it was the world's tallest building for all intents and purposes for 31 years. No building was taller. Not in the States, not in Europe, not anywhere on the planet. Nothing. And unfortunately, because we're so humble up here and we don't, I don't know. A lot of people did know about it, but a lot of people did. Like, more people know about the Eiffel Tower and the Empire State Building than the CN Tower. And, but it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that it's just in our backyard. So if you're ever in Toronto, it's a must. You've got to go up the CN Tower because it's got a gorgeous view, and it just installed, ceiling to floor panoramic windows. So it's just unbelievable. So, yeah, Toronto's a big, bustling city, an exciting city. And, of course, we have our version of Times Square, a mini Times Square, if you will. It's nowhere near the size of Times Square, let's be honest. But it's our own little version of it. Every major city should have its heart, you know, its central sort of tourist destination, and Dundas Square would be ours, and it's continuing to grow, and the LED boards and the signs and the glitz and the glam, and it's right next to a huge mall, and it's got the, you know, the movie theater, and it's got the, you know, the street performers and the concerts that happen there, and it's just great. It's just great. And it's a lot of, I love to go downtown when something's going on. Like, I can only imagine, because I saw the clips. I wasn't downtown when the Raptors won and made it into the Eastern Conference Final, but certainly I saw the clips, and it was like we had won a championship. And a lot of people were making fun of that. Like, a lot of, you know, sports fans from the States were like, well, look at them motherfucking won a championship. It's like, yeah, it's because we're the only team in the NBA, and we've never made it to the finals, and it's the first time that a major sports team from Toronto has been in the championship in 5-6 years or whatever it is. Yeah, it is a big deal. It's a big fucking deal. You're damn right it is. Golden State, not a big deal. It's the 5th time in a row. Whatever. Okay, we're there. Not a big deal, right? But yeah, it was fun to watch those clips. And yeah, I think if anybody is, look, there's to go out to Vancouver and see the mountains and to experience the West Coast is, you wouldn't be at a loss. It is gorgeous out there and one of the most beautiful places in the world. But if you want that American, quote unquote, sort of feel and vibe and the hustle and the bustle and the energy here in Canada, then you come to Toronto. Because like I said, I could plop any of you right downtown, and if you weren't looking at the CN Tower, I could tell you that you were in Chicago, and you'd buy it. You'd go, oh, okay, you know, and then of course you'd find out you weren't. But it's a nice city. It's continuing to grow, and the great thing about Toronto as well is that it's a fairly young, you know, city. Our skyscraper boom really didn't start to happen until the 60s, whereas in New York, of course, it was like the 20s and the 30s. And we're having a boom right now. Like the buildings that are going up now are just ridiculous. The skyline of Toronto looks impressive now, as you can see in the clip that I showed you, but it's going to look even more impressive in the next 5 to 10 years. So it's just kind of cool. So it's kind of an exciting time, but it's interesting to watch the American coverage and their perceptions on Canada and Toronto, because I find that, you know, the naivety seems to sort of kick in, you know, and there's always the defaults, right? Oh yeah, we're heading up to Toronto to cover the, you know, the Raptors and, you know, the Warriors. it's going to be cold up there. And I'm thinking, oh, fuck. It's almost June. It's not cold up here, you know? It's just, I find it interesting. It's because we know so much about the U.S. We know so much about what goes on, but that's because we get all of the coverage, we get all of the news and the sports and the you know, the entertainment, and our entertainment industries are interlocked with each other, but it's interesting because we know so much. We soon, you know, we sometimes forget how little the Americans as a whole. I'm not saying anybody in the chat room, right? It's generally speaking how little a lot of people do know about our country and what it's like up here. And we're a 4-seasoned country. We get 4 seasons. It's not cold all year long. We get very hot, humid weather here in southern Ontario, so that can be kind of crazy in the summer. But I haven't heard anybody say oot and a boot. That's a big one. That's not really something you hear up here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. Go Raps, go. Tomorrow night, baby. Tomorrow night. Podman says, Dave, do you speak some French too? I don't speak French. No, there's only one. That's one thing I've always found hilarious. And it's trying to, you know, please everybody. The thing with Canada, and something that I've noted, like the U.S. has a very rich, right or wrong, has a very rich history in terms of its, in terms of being very patriotic. Like, you guys in the States are extremely patriotic. And in Canada, we like to think we are, but you had to fight for your independence. And you tried to take us over, and then, you know, we kind of said, no, we're not having that. And that didn't happen. But you had to fight for your independence. We didn't have to fight for our independence. Because for those of you that don't know, we were actually a British colony at one time. And we were essentially given our independence. So it's not something that we necessarily had to fight for. So we do have history, but our history is very embedded with the British, which is why the Queen is on our money, which is why she's on our coins, which is why we celebrate a lot of, you know, British holidays like Victoria Day, and, you know, and our roots are very embedded there. So when it comes to the French side, you know, there's only really one province that is French, which is Quebec. And the fact that it's our we have 2 national. I've always found it funny that when you watch a Canadian politician, especially the Prime Minister, in order to be Prime Minister of Canada, and this is true, folks, in order to be Prime Minister of Canada, you have to speak both French and English. You have to. It's a prerequisite. And I find that hilarious because in order to be the American president, if you speak Spanish, hey, that's a bonus. That's great. But it's not a prerequisite. You don't have to. And every time the president has a press conference, he's not repeating everything in English and in Spanish. In Canada, it's what happens. And it's fucking annoying. It really is. I'm just like, just pick one and go with it. The vast majority of this country speaks English. And a lot of people in Quebec, not everybody, but a lot of them also understand English. So the fact that he has to repeat everything in French, I just find really annoying. I do. I just think it's stupid and it's overcompensating and it's just dumb, in my opinion. I don't hate the French. I just think the whole idea of it is just dumb. The whole idea of having to repeat everything in French, because everything just takes longer. And it's embarrassing when the Prime Minister of Canada goes to meet with your president and he's up there and he's having, you know, a press conference, and the U.S. president will say something in English, and then, you know, the Prime Minister will say something in English, and he'll have to repeat everything in French for the French people that are watching. I mean, anyway. Lordy. But, yeah, and of course we have the monarchy as opposed to what you guys have down there. And we're very different. But the thing that I've noticed about visiting the States a lot, like there is a difference, but we're more alike than we are different. We really are. To the chagrin, I think, of a lot of people. I think we want us to be very different, but going down south to visit anybody down there, coming up here, it's not a culture shock. It's not like going to France, right? Or going to Egypt, or going to even to London, right? There's a bit of a culture shock because the buildings are older, it looks different, things are different, things are small. Like, you know, you really feel like you're in a different country. When I go to the States, I don't feel like I'm in a different country. I know consciously I am because of the American money I'm using, because of the American flags, depending on where I am in the States, maybe, you know, there's some accents around, right? So you feel it in that sense. But everything looks the same. It sounds the same. The cars are the same. The movie theaters are the same. The stores are the same. You know, the wardrobe is the same. Like, everything's the same. Like, our cultures are so embedded with each other that it's just not. There are little things that you'll notice, but crossing the border, it's not like you're like, wow, this is so different. It's not. Like, it just isn't, you know? It's not like crossing from the U.S. into Mexico. Now, that's culture shock, right? That's like, wow, this is really different. You really notice this. Going from Buffalo to Toronto? No. Going from anywhere in the States up here, you just like, I just feel like if you come from Louisiana up to Toronto, you would just feel like you went to New York or, you know, the Northeast, you know, or the Midwest. Like, that's what it's like. So anyway, I don't want to talk too long about all this, but I just want to take a little bit and just kind of talk about it because it's just kind of fun. It's fun to see the American media come to Toronto, and I think a lot of people are pleasantly surprised when they come up here as well, and they realize, wow, it's not the foreign, weird, cold land that we think it is. It's actually quite the same for the most part, you know, depending on where you're coming from, of course, right? You know, but anyway, somebody asked in here if I had ever been to Montreal. Yes, I have, because I used to live in Ottawa. I lived in Ottawa for 10 years. It's where I grew up. It's where I went to high school. So I had been to Montreal quite a few times. Vince Grail Whiskey says maybe Dave went to WrestleMania 6. No, I didn't, but I remember it. I absolutely remember it. The J Hookmaster says, who do you think will be the next PM of Canada, Dave? I have no idea. I'm aware of what's going on in politics, but because I don't play the identity politics, I don't really get involved in that kind of thing or get emotionally attached to any party or color or person. I don't know. I don't know. I think because Trudeau is so well liked, I would assume he'll probably win again, but I have no idea. Luke Glanton says, do you like Chicago? I've only been to the airport. I've only been to O'Hare in Chicago. So I've never been right into the city, but I've dealt with a lot of buyers and clients and studios in Chicago. I did a couple of Super Bowl ads, actually. Was it last year or the year before? I think it was the year before. Yeah, it was the year before. It was for the 2018 Super Bowl. I did all of their, not all of their, but I did a bunch of ads for Slim Jim. And the studio was based out of Chicago. I think they're on my website. I think so. Maybe you've seen them. Anyway, so I've dealt with a lot of people in Chicago, but I've never been. But I know people who've been to both Chicago and Toronto, and they're like, yeah, it's a similar feeling being in both. Drake, but see, that's the thing, right? Is that as a Canadian, when we go to the States, it's funny. Now, again, this is generally speaking. It's not for everybody, right? Because there's a lot of Americans that are very well educated in what Canada is like. But it's funny when I go to the States because if I'm talking to somebody who I don't know or I've known not very well or whatever it is, and they've been to Canada maybe once, maybe they went to Vancouver for a wedding or something, but they haven't really been. You'll get things. And I'm not saying that that's what you were doing, but because Drake is a global star, right? And because the Raptors are in the American news right now, you'll get a lot of Drake, right? You know, because they need something to identify. Hockey, Drake, cold weather, Celine Dion. You know, the Americans when I say the Americans, I mean these type, you know, tend to have like their go-tos, right? You know, and it's like, oh, I'm talking to a Canadian. What can I do? Drake, hockey, cold weather, Trudeau, and oh God, Celine Dion. Yeah, okay. So how about that Celine Dion? And it's just funny because I'm just, and it's just, yeah, it's amusing, but it's not necessarily the fault of the person I'm talking to. It's just the matter of circumstance of how sort of we're a much smaller country, and I'm the first to admit. I mean, look, if we weren't situated right above the U.S., we would matter just as much in the world as Norway. And I'm talking like on a geopolitical sort of, you know what I mean? But we only matter really, and I'm not afraid to admit we only matter because we live right above you guys. That's why we have to because we live right there. But you ask in terms of, and I don't talk about politics, but in terms of if you were to ask the U.S., when I say the U.S., I talk, in the geopolitical arena, right? If you were to ask the U.S. who is your best friend, the U.S. would inevitably say the British, right? If you ask Canada, who's your best friend? Who do we say? The U.S. We're like that little brother who's looking up to the big brother, but the big brother's like, shut up. You know what I mean? It's just like, But, so I find those things from that sociological perspective really interesting and fascinating. And I will get to your questions, guys. I will. But I just find it so interesting. And, cause there are stereotypes for every country that are true, but there are stereotypes for Canada that I find, that are true and that are exaggerated, that are not true. And I just find it interesting, even when the Canadian Prime Minister goes to visit the American president, whoever it is, right? I don't care if it's Obama or if it was Bush or Trump or whoever it is, it doesn't matter. I find that whoever is the chief of staff for the president must be like, okay, Mr. President. Okay, so the Canadian Prime Minister is coming, and okay, so hockey, canoes. Okay, you were up there on vacation once in 1982. And it's funny because it's the same talking points. It's like, what do we got on Canada? Hockey, canoes. Okay, good. And then he's up there and he's like, I remember I went up to Canada once. I watched some hockey. Saw a Blue Jay game. Because you know nothing. So there's always those points. And I'll watch. I'll be like, oh. It's painful. And I'm just like, we're so sad. We don't matter. The irony is that we matter actually quite a bit when you actually break it down in terms of how connected we are in terms of our entertainment industries, culture, and trade. I mean, it's unbelievable. So we actually do matter quite a bit, but it's just, I have a ball watching the American media come to Toronto and have them all like, wow, this is a really big fucking... I mean, a lot of them know because they've, been up here. But there's some that are like, wow, I didn't realize it was, kind of warm today. And I'm just like, oh, it's painful. It's painful to watch. Come on, Toronto. We gotta push this. Canada, come on. Stop being the wimps we are and get out there. Stop being humble. Get out there. Sell yourselves. Don't sell yourselves short. I'll do it. I'll be the fucking ambassador. Kills4748 says, as a Chicagoan, is that how I say it? A Chicago is the best city to spend your summertime. Yeah, hey, well, you know what? A lot of people are going to say that, right? If you're a New Yorker, you're going to say New York, right? If you're from Toronto and you're a Torontonian, you might say Toronto. I think there's a lot of cities in North America, whether it's New York, whether it's Boston, whether it's New Orleans, whether it's Toronto, Vancouver. There's a lot of great cities that you could spend your time in the summer. And if you're coming to Canada, the three best ones would be Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. And for sure. A couple of super chats here, which I greatly appreciate. Let me go back and just get them. Make sure I didn't... miss them. Mendel Goodman. Thank you for the super chat. Why are you not watching the NHL Finals? Well, I'm not watching the NHL Finals because I don't really care about the two teams that are in the finals. I don't have any attachment to them, but I am, even though I think Boston is going to win, I'm pulling for St. Louis because I would love to see the Blues win because they've never won before. At least I don't think they've ever won before. And Boston has. They've won twice in the last 10 years or whatever. So I would love to see the Blues win, but I don't have a dog in that fight, so I'll catch the highlights, Brandon Gregory, thank you, Brandon. I love the aquarium in Toronto. They have sharks. Yeah, well, a lot of aquariums do, but yeah, they do. They have the aquarium is situated right beside the CN Tower, so that's always sort of a good kind of kill two birds with one stone in terms of a tourist destination. And Toronto, I also think, has the second or third largest zoo in North America. As well. And then, of course, you got Canada's Wonderland, which is like Six Flags, but we got it's just on the outskirts of Toronto. Huge park with huge roller coasters. We just installed Yukon Striker, which is the tallest dive coaster in the world, I believe. And it's at Canada's Wonderland right now. So there's that as well, which is a great park. There's a shitload to do up here. Yeah. Let me see here. Jay Harper says, are you a Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan, Jet Li, etc. fan in general, Kung Fu cinema fan? I wouldn't say in general. I'm not fans of them. I mean, I really enjoy watching Jackie Chan and all, the stunts he would do. I think it's a lot of fun to watch. I'm not a fan, but I wouldn't say that I'm an authority on those types of movies. It's not a genre that I particularly have watched, but I would always be down for one, for sure. Aaron Preto, Super Chat. Thank you, Aaron. Says, hey, Dave, if Haddonfield was a real city, what city would it be? If Haddonfield was a real city, what city would it be? Well, Haddonfield is a town. So I've always pictured Haddonfield as a town of maybe 10,000 people. I don't think it's a big town. And there's a couple of towns up here in Ontario that often remind me of Haddonfield because up here in Canada, especially in southern Ontario where I am, it's pretty much like the Midwest, right? Which is what Haddonfield was, or where Haddonfield was. So I don't know, pick any small Midwestern town in the US that has maybe 10,000 people, if that. And that's probably what Haddonfield would be like. But Haddonfield would not be like a Toronto or a Chicago or anything like that. That's way too big. Oliver Mercer, thank you, Oliver. Hey, Dave, great show. I love your Terminator Dark Fate fan trailer. Brilliantly executed. I'm pumped for it myself. I have a feeling it'll end up being good. I hope so, man. I really do. I hope so, because I thought the trailer was dog shit. I thought it was fucking dog shit. And it did nothing to get me hyped. I was hanging out with my buddy Bruce last night because he wanted to come over and give me a card for my 40th birthday. So we were hanging out. And he said, I said to him, and he thought it was dog shit too. And I said, it doesn't mean it's going to be crap. I mean, we've all seen good trailers to bad movies, bad trailers to good movies. But he's, hit the nail on the head. He's like, yeah, that's true. He said, but the point of a trailer is to get you hyped. The point of the trailer is to play on the mystique and the, those feelings and to get you hyped. And the trailer did none of that, at least for us. I hope so. I hope so. And I showed him the fan trailer I did, and he's like, yeah, that's what it should have been. That's what it should have been. It should have been like that. In and out like that. That's what it should have been. Kind of sucky that it wasn't. Manhammer AR-15 says, Dave, is it true that Drake has a pet snake named Frosted Flake? I have no idea. See, I don't know. I'm not a Drake fan. I'm not really a fan of... I'm not a rap fan. I like music, and if Drake was to release a song that I love the beat to, I don't care what he's saying. I really don't. I'm not into that. But if he was, I'm all about the beat and the, melody and that kind of shit. And if anybody, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's the Backstreet Boys, if it's AC/DC, if it's Led Zeppelin, they're not, around anymore. But I don't care who it is. A good song's a good song. A good beat is a good beat. And if Drake was to release a song that I thought was really good, great. But I don't know enough. I don't like his stuff. So I don't hate the guy. I just don't like his music. It's not my style. It's not my taste. So I don't really know anything about him. I mean, I know he's a big Raptors fan, but I don't know anything about him personally. So I have no idea. Good question, though. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Let me, something else about Toronto I wanted to say. I forget what it was now. Talked about movies, the film festival. Yeah, like if any of you guys are close to the U.S. border, like like if you are close to the Detroit Windsor border or the Buffalo, Niagara border, you guys should come up to Toronto. Come up for a vacation. You'll love it. You'll love it. It's a great city. Great energy. Great energy. Haddonfield, New Jersey, home of Deborah Hill and I. Yes, that's right. Haddonfield, New Jersey was, I think that was a bit bigger than the town that Haddonfield was in the movie. But yeah, it's a real, that's what it was based after. Yep, that's right. Absolutely. You're bang on, man. You're bang on. Halloween Hero says, how do you feel about Freddy versus Jason, Dave? Would you and Tony ever think about doing an episode on it? No. Also, are you hyped for King of the Monsters? I'm hyped for King of the Monsters, man. But we're just not into crossovers. And I thought Freddy versus Jason was garbage. So I just have no interest in talking about it. Bobby Hall! Wait a minute. Where'd it go? It's not Bobby Hall. It's... I lost you. Bobby... Yeah, it is. Bobby Hall. That's right. Hey, Bobby. How you doing, buddy? Hey, Dave. How did you get into voice acting and what did you do before that? Well, great question. Well, I have always wanted to get into acting. I've always wanted to. I was always into the movie making and the filmmaking and the acting and that kind of thing. But long story short, I was pursuing an on-camera acting career, and then I was up in Ottawa playing some road hockey. How Canadian is that? And I broke my 2 front teeth. How Canadian is that? It's such a typical hockey player thing with his 2 front teeth, But we were just out on the street playing some road hockey, and it was getting towards dusk. And it was like, okay, last goal wins, because it was getting really hard to see the ball. And I scored the winning goal, and I think it was the shaft of my own stick, came down on my teeth and broke my teeth. So needless to say, my career as an on-camera actor had to go on hiatus while I got my face fixed. And then I was always dabbling in the voiceover work, and this was 2003. So then I started to pursue it full time, and then I didn't look back. And I come from a media family. I come from a very sort of, extroverted, big personality family. I love acting and performing. I have a diploma in acting, and I went to college, and I studied radio, TV, and film, and so I have a background, but the voice acting was great. I mean, you can still perform and be a performer, because even if you're not doing animation, you're always doing something, right? Like some sort of fictional version of yourself, whether I'm playing the dad in a Coke commercial, or I'm playing the younger guy, college guy in a Coors Light ad, or whatever it is. You're still acting, right? And I never look back. I still yearn to perform and be in front of the camera, which I think this kind of thing helps with that a lot. And I think it was one of the reasons why I got into getting out there with this channel more, is because it feeds that need. And I can talk about my favorite things in the world, which is movies and voice acting or whatever the hell I want to talk about. Like tonight, right? I jumped on and it was impromptu and I want to talk to you guys, but I was like, I want to talk about Toronto for a bit and kind of talk about how awesome I think this city is, and now that the Raps are in, the finals, and sort of just kind of talk about some things that maybe some of you guys down there would be like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, I didn't know that. Not that everybody doesn't know that, obviously, but, and then I get to do this just on a whim, right? I do most of my work from home, and, it's not a 9-to-5 job, so it's really great. And, so that in a nutshell, I mean, I could go on and on and on and on, but that in a nutshell is sort of how I got into pursuing it full time. I created a demo. I submitted it to, some agents here in Toronto, and they liked what I was able to do, and the rest is history. And that's the great thing too, is that Toronto is a major hub for entertainment. I mean, I believe, I stand to be corrected, but I believe Hollywood shoots about 20, is it 20%? Like something like, or maybe it was over I'm stand to be corrected on the numbers, but up until a little while ago, it was like 20% of the productions are being shot here because we have the facilities to do it. And even though the stories might not take place in Toronto, because Toronto is such a major, massive city, you can shoot here and you can say it's Chicago, and people will, I was going to say buy it and believe it. I went belie it. People will buy it. You could say it's LA, maybe, depending on where you're shooting. Of course, we don't have the palm trees, so it might be a bit difficult, but definitely Chicago, definitely New York, Boston, anything. It's a major, like, if you want to pursue a career in the entertainment industry and you're a Canadian, you either go to Vancouver or Toronto. And Toronto has all the headquarters for all the major networks, the studios, it's got TIFF. It's just, this is the place to be, for that. So, that's why I'm here. So yeah, great question though. Thanks for the question. I'd love to talk more and more about it, but, it's one of those things where it could take forever. Okay, that was something I answered. I thought there was another super chat I missed. Oh yeah, there it is. Whew, good thing I didn't miss it. K316, thank you for the super chat. K316, you're awesome. Hey Dave, could you imitate Captain Kirk and the scream for Khan? Well, probably not, but not like identically, but I could just go, Khan! That's what he says, right? I haven't seen that movie in a long time. The original, like the Star Trek 2. I gotta watch that. Again. That was cool. Dude says, any chance of Jaws the Revenge commentary? Well, I'm maybe. Oh, it's such a shit show of a movie. Maybe. It all, like, the Saturday movie nights are not chosen by me. I put up 5 movies and then level 3 patrons get to vote on them. So if or maybe I'll just do it. Who knows? We'll see. Adam Carl Green says, who is the most famous person you have ever met? Most famous person I've ever met. I don't know. That's a good question. I've been in the company of a lot of famous people. And that goes all the way back to not just with what I've done in my career, but growing up with my dad, who was a journalist. So I met a lot of famous hockey players. Like I've met, Pat LaFontaine and let me see here. Pat LaFontaine, Grant Fuhr, Gretzky, going back as a kid and, meeting all sorts of, I met the Prime Minister of Canada, of course, as well. Not Trudeau. I mean, going back to when I was a kid. In my career, I've been in the presence of, William Shatner and Sigourney Weaver and Rosario Dawson and, Bob Bergen and I mean, just the being in the industry, it's hard to say, because like it's, as a voice actor, it's a bit different. Because you do most of your work behind the scenes like this, and then you get out and you get to meet people at award shows and that kind of thing. So, it's hard to say. But I've been in the company because of the shows that I'll attend or the studios that I'll go to. I've been in the company of a lot of cool people, a lot of Emmy award winning producers, and I've had the chance of I've had the wonderful opportunity of being directed by some great Emmy award winning directors as well in the voiceover area when it comes to doing the animation I've done, and it's been an interesting ride. It's been an interesting ride, but I don't think about it a lot. Funny enough, because I'm just doing my thing, right? My job. But I'd have to think on that. Like, what is the most famous person that I've ever met? Because I got to go back to when I was a kid. My dad would take me into the dressing rooms of like the Buffalo Sabres but I'm like, well, but then wait a minute, is that more? I got to think about that. That's a good question. Really cool though. Great question. Let me see here. Oh, Wayne Downey says, I ran into Alan Thicke when I was in Toronto. Oh, that's cool. Rest in peace, Alan Thicke. That's really cool. Hallow says, Dave, did you see the Ghostface thriller trailer for the video game Dead by Daylight? It's really cool. I haven't, but I saw a post about it, so I'll have to check it out. Let me see here. Kills4748 says, I still remember back when they were filming The Dark Knight, the trailer flipping scene in Chicago. People were trying to catch a glimpse. Was their iconic scene, people were trying to catch a glimpse. Was there a iconic scene that they filmed in Toronto that you saw? Well, they filmed a lot. They have filmed a lot of movies here. I mean, a lot of movies here. A lot of movies that you wouldn't even. Well, I mean, the two It films are shot in Port Hope, which is a little town just east of Toronto. I could get to Port Hope. I could get to Derry, if you will, in probably an hour from here. It's not that far. Think through it many times. They've shot It here. They've shot Shape of Water here. They've shot. I think Pacific Rim was shot here. I think. They've shot a ton of movies. Like I could go online and let me see here. Oh God, like what? This is just off the top of my head, right? Black Christmas, of course, which is a Canadian movie. Blade 2, Adventures in Babysitting, Angel Eyes, American Psycho, American Psycho 2, Cinderella Man, Dark Water, Dawn of the Dead. Let me see here. One guys you'll know. Fantastic Four, Fever Pitch, Finding Forrester, The Fly, Glitter, Godsend, Get Rich or Die Tryin', Hairspray, Half Baked, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, The In-Laws, The Incredible Hulk, Jason X, there you go, John Q. I'm just like scrolling, like there's a ton I haven't said. There's way too many. I'm just trying to find ones that you might know. Yeah, Pacific Rim, Police Academies 1, 2, 3, 4. The Ref, Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, 4. RoboCop 2014. The Santa Claus with Tim Allen. Saw 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. Like, I mean, the amount of movies they shoot here are huge, and it's because it's an epicenter for making movies. And now that we have Pinewood, which we've had for I think about, I want to say over 10 years now, and we have the largest sound stage in North America, they're coming up here to shoot. Like the new Star Trek Discovery show is shot up here, shot in Toronto. So that's why I'm here. I'm Canadian. That's why I'm here. If I was in the States, I'd be in LA or New York. But when you're in Canada, you come to Toronto. And because we deal with LA and New York and Chicago all the time, it's like, yeah, it's great. David Lee Barron says, what are your thoughts about Bruce Lee, his movies and his legacy? Oh, somebody asked that a bit earlier. I've seen a couple of his movies, but I don't know enough about him. I just know like the basic shit that everybody knows. I can't say that I know anything deep about him to really give a concrete answer on that. But I should really watch more of his stuff. PC Pierce, thanks for the super chat. PC Peace. Dave, would you consider doing a TLJ live stream? The Last Jedi live stream? Like you mean what? Just kind of ranting and talking about The Last Jedi? Is that what you mean? Grave Warmer, thanks for the super chat, Grave. Hey, Dave, Oliver Mercer asks, seeing that Harrison Ford is your favorite actor, what would you ask him if you ever got to meet him? If I ever got to meet Harrison Ford, what would I ask him? It's a good question. I don't know. I've never really thought much about it, to be honest with you. I know the last thing I would ask him is I would probably want to ask him something that was more human. You know, like, what's your biggest fear? You know, is there a role that you've always wanted to do that you haven't done or that escaped you? You know, like just things like that. Things that are not fanboy-ish questions, you know? And I don't usually I've never found myself getting starstruck ever with anybody I've met or been in the company with. And it's primarily because I think the industry that I work in, working in the entertainment industry, it's not that I don't like, oh, wow, it's cool. Like, but I think I've always sort of, ever since I was a young kid, like a teenager, I've always been so serious about it. And I've always wanted to hold my composure because I'm all about the craft and doing, a good job and this, that, and the other, that I don't care about being famous or I don't care about that kind of thing. I just really love what I do. And I mean, I have goals and things I want to accomplish that I haven't yet accomplished. But so when I meet other people that could be perceived as famous, I guess I'm just sort of, I find myself being like that. I find myself being a little more inquisitive, I guess. When we're like, oh yeah, so what's, the one thing, like it's like I'm not acting like I'm a fan or I appreciate their work, because I'm there. I'm like, I might be in the company. Like I was able to talk with, when I was at the Voice Arts Awards, I had a great 20-minute conversation with Bob Bergen. Now, for those of you that don't know who Bob Bergen is, he's the voice of Porky Pig, Tweety Bird. He's been doing a ton of VO stuff for years and years, and he's certainly VO royalty. And it was wonderful. I had the chance to talk to him, but we talked about Looney Tunes for a little bit, but we talked about other stuff as well. And it's just sort of, because I'm there, I'm one of them there. So it's almost like I just go into like a zone, where it's like I don't want to. I'm locked in, So it's kind of strange. I think if I ever had the chance to meet Harrison Ford, I think I would probably play it the same way. It'd be a bit like, wow, this is Harrison fucking Ford, one of the greatest cinematic movie stars of all time. But I could totally see myself locking in and being like, yeah. So what's that one thing, and just kind of being very sort of level-headed about it all. It's just the way I am. It's just the way sort of I am. That doesn't mean that afterwards I might be like, holy shit. You know what I mean? But in the moment, it's kind of like I don't want to be that annoying little fan that comes up. It's because I'm there, right? I want to make a good first impression kind of thing. That's how I always am. Not to say that it wouldn't be difficult. I'm not saying that. Let's see here. Ethan LeBlanc says, I think you may have missed my super chat. Oh, did I, buddy? Hey, thank you for saying that. Let me go back and see. I really appreciate everybody. Always do that. Hey, Dave, do you... Yes, I did. I missed it. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Ethan. Yeah. If anybody ever sends in a super chat and, 5 minutes goes by and I haven't sort of got to it or whatever, and you see kind of the thing go, don't be afraid to say, hey, Dave, I sent you a super chat. Don't be afraid, because it's never personal. It's not like I'm like, oh, fuck you, I don't want to answer that. It's just like it goes by and sometimes I miss it. Thank you, Ethan. Hey, Dave, hope all is well. Do you have more fun being an antagonist, villain, or protagonist hero when you do? Oh, always the antagonist. Always the villain. Oh, yeah. I mean, I always have more fun. Like, I've yet to play a starring role as a villain, but I've played side characters that have been villains, like in one-off episodes, or something of Doki, or Fireman Sam, or like whatever it is. Maybe there's an episode that calls for I'm a ghouly character or whatever. It's always a blast. Villains are always the most fun to play. Always. Yeah, they're always the most fun. Even the auditions that I do. And you don't look, actors will always audition. I mean, unless you're Brad Pitt, or you're Harrison Ford and you reach a level where people are just calling you. But voice actors, especially, you will always audition far more than you work. Even I, who make a living as a voice actor and have done very well, always audition far more than I work. That's just, it's the way it is. I've gotten to a point now in my career, thankfully, that people are, like, I don't have to audition for, like, people will just call me now, which is great, but I still audition more than I work. And when you don't get an audition, it's never personal, right? It's just you're auditioning, and there are other people that are auditioning as well. And sometimes you might do something that's somebody else just does it just a smidgy bit better, or the way you said something wasn't quite as good as the way that person said something. Happens all the time. So when I get to audition for villains, It's always fun. I go into my booth over there and I turn everything on and I'm just getting right into it. It's always fun to audition to be a villain. I love it. It's great. So definitely for me, the villains. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find a voice actor or any actor who wouldn't say, "Oh, who doesn't want to play the fucking villain?" Like if you had your chance to play He-Man or Skeletor, well, He-Man would be pretty fucking cool. But at the end of the day, come on, you want to be Luke or you want to be fucking Vader? You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things, because I'm not a very tall guy. I'm 5'8", right? And it's one of the things that I've always admired when I go to Comic-Cons and I see people dressed up as Darth Vader. I'm just like, oh, fuck, you look awesome. I would love to dress up as Darth Vader, but I can't. I mean, I can, but I'm not tall enough. Seeing a 5'8" Darth Vader, walk by, maybe I might be able to get myself to 5'10" in some boots, but it's not tall enough to be Darth Vader. You need to be 6'6" to really give that, like, whoa, now that guy looks fucking awesome, right? So I've always admired, like, I guess I could be a stormtrooper, because I'm about the size of Mark Hamill. So, and even he, him was, even he was too short to be a stormtrooper, or a little short to be a stormtrooper. But yeah, the villains are the best. I love the villains. They're awesome. So it's PC Pierce. Did you answer? I want to go back and see if you gave a non-super chat follow-up to that super chat, because I asked you a question. I didn't know quite sure what you're referring to. If your question was if I'm going to do a live stream about The Last Jedi, no, I'm not. I'm not going to do it because I don't have anything to say about it anymore. It's a dog shit of a movie. Okay, K316 says, "Hey Dave, would you consider being a voice actor in some anime series or animation movie?" Oh, 100%. I audition for them all the time. Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. 100%. Yeah, I actually was this close to being on an anime series. I forget the name of it now. It was a new series. It was going to be it was a web series. And I had like 2 or 3 callbacks, and then it was down to like me and this one other guy, and the other guy got it, I think, because he was a really good singer. And there were a couple of moments where they wanted this character to sing, and he was just really good. He could sing. I can carry a tune, but I certainly am not like a singer, right? So I was like, hey, yeah, totally, I get it. Like, you got it. Makes sense. No harm, no foul, right? MM says, "Hey Dave, which Star Wars character would you like to voice?" Which Star Wars character would like to voice? I don't care. I would just be like a ghouly alien in Maz Kanata's bar. Well, that's been destroyed now, but whatever. Like some bar and some, like, at the edge of some galaxy and some planet. I could be in the bar and you see like this ghouly creature and I'm just going. Give me a paycheck. I'm in. I'm fucking in, man. Let's see. Greg Grainer says, oh, he's talking to somebody else. Fast Forwards 289 says, "Hey Dave, have you ever converted a Captain Kirk mask into a Halloween 1978 mask?" Me personally, no, I haven't. I have not done that. Anthony Scarpula says, "Hey Dave, do you like Gremlins 1 and 2? I haven't seen either movie in a long time. Love the first movie. It's a classic. Second movie, that's the new batch. I remember watching it. What year was that? Like, that was early 90s, wasn't it? Like 91 or something? I remember watching it either as a young teen or a preteen, not liking it as much. That's the one that takes place in like a skyscraper, doesn't it, or something? Yeah, I don't think I liked it as much as the first one. I like the first one, though. I should watch those. Maybe the Gremlins is on Netflix. Maybe I'll watch that tonight. I don't know. We'll see. Mark McCatherine says, "Dave, The Night He Came Back is better than all the Halloween sequels. You are a great Myers." Oh, well, I wouldn't say that. I appreciate that. There's a lot of things in that movie that I wish I could go back and do differently, but it was fun to do. And I know not everybody likes it, but it was fun to do. It was fun to see if I could create some Halloweeny mood and atmosphere on a budget that was only about $5,000. And I just wanted to take advantage of shooting in Pasadena. And we became the first fan film. We're not the only one now. There's been a couple others that have done it. But we were the first fan film, the first Halloween fan film to actually shoot at the real locations. So that was kind of cool. And thank you for saying that I was a good Myers. Thank you. Yeah, I've always had a lot of compliments actually on the way I portray Myers. And it's simply because I guess I feel that I understand sort of. I just walk. I mean, there is a like I am consciously aware of how I'm walking, but I don't think too much about it. I just walk into the room. And I think that is the best thing you can do. The second you start thinking about how you're walking, am I walking like Nick? Is it too much like Dick? Then you're just going to ruin it. I mean, just because, we have to remember what John Carpenter said to Nick Castle. He just said, I just told him to walk, and he's famous for saying, I had Nick walk like a man to make Michael like a monster, because that's it's the best thing. And it's one of the things, a lot of people love Dick Warlock as the Shape, but if there is a criticism that everybody says about his portrayal, it's that he's a little too mechanical. He's a little too stiff. He's a little too methodical. He's a little too, and they would much have preferred the more loose, just walking into a room, So I appreciate the compliment, though. Thank you. Let's see here. I don't want to miss any super chats. I missed any super chat? I don't think I did. What's the last one? The last super chat was the Grave Warmer one. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure. What is it? 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock? Hey, Dave. This is Robert Nickerson. Hey, Dave. I was looking through your old videos, and I enjoyed you filming your Halloween festivities, decorating and dressing up as Michael Myers. I hope you make more of those videos. Yeah, that was when I used to live at another location. Still here in the GTA, but that was when I lived not where I am now. Where I am now, there's not too many kids in the neighborhood. I mean, there are some, but not nearly enough to warrant doing that. Where I lived before, like I've been where I am now for about 6 or 7 years. 6 years. Almost 6 years, actually. I moved here to this location in 2013. So before, where I was, there were a lot of young families, a lot of preteens, a lot of people that would be trick-or-treating. Now, not so much. So that's why I haven't done it. I'd love to do it. I'd do it in a heartbeat. I got a bigger house, so I would totally do it in a heartbeat. Make it look really cool. But unfortunately, yeah, it would just be me out there. Dr. Splinter says, Dave, which Halloween movie do you think has the best box art? The best box art? That's a good question. That's good. I think, the original Halloween, a lot of them are really good. Like the original Halloween, that poster is iconic. And did you know that poster, and I have this from the horse's mouth, so you can take this to the bank. That poster, you heard it here first, folks. Maybe not. Maybe you heard this somewhere else. Maybe you read this. I don't know if this is in the pop culture. I'm not sure. When I was talking to Erwin Yablans at the 40th anniversary convention, and we, because there's the interview I did with him on my channel, but we actually shot the shit for about 10 minutes after that was done. And that's how he found out that I was a voice actor. And then that's how I got to meet his son. And then, of course, I treated his son, Mickey, and his daughter to the Voice Arts Awards, and that's how all that came to be. So, because Mickey's daughter is a big voice acting fan. So, Erwin asked me if it was possible if I'd be able to treat her, and she is. She is she knows more about voice acting than she knows all. I was like, oh my God. Just a sweetheart of a girl. And so anyway, but when I was talking to Erwin and he was telling me all about Halloween, all that kind of stuff, he told me that it was his idea for the Halloween poster. He told me that it was, he told them, is there any way we can make like a fist holding a knife or something on like a pumpkin or something, whatever it is. It's one of the most iconic movie posters in history. And so that poster, I didn't know this before, but it was his idea. And I was like, I didn't know. He's like, yeah. He's like, not a lot of people know that. A lot of people give John Carpenter, and rightly so, a boatload of credit. And rightly so. He helped to write the script. He directed the movie. He created, the music. He created Michael Myers. You cannot not give credit where credit is due when it comes to John Carpenter. He's the granddaddy. Or he's the daddy. He's the father of Halloween. But the granddaddy, the grandfather of Halloween is Irwin Yablans. And because it was him that came up with the idea not only to make a low-budget horror movie, it was his idea to hire John Carpenter. It was his idea to set the movie on Halloween. And it was his idea for the fucking poster. So, you can't. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get enough credit, but I think that's why he was there at the convention and why he wrote that book as well, which I also bought. So it's a good book. It's a very good book. So you can't understate that, man. Really cool guy. So I forget what the question was. Poe. What's the most? That's really cool. But you know what? Even the Halloween 4 box art is really cool. Halloween 5 box art, I think, is weak. It's just almost basically like the Halloween 4 box art, but you just stick Daniel Harris on it and a knife. It just seems cheap to me. And that has nothing to do with the quality of the movie. I would say that if the movie was fucking amazing. The Halloween 6 box art, kind of cool, I guess. Once you get to H2O and Resurrection, they're dog shit box arts. I'm talking about the original box art, okay? The original, posters for these films. They're dog shit. Has nothing to do with the quality of the movies or how I think of the movies. In the mid to late 90s, there was this gimmicky shtick that they were doing with horror films where they would put all the faces of the main, players, the main actors on the box art. And you would have them all be like this, and then the person below them would be like this, and somebody else going like this, and then you have one person being like this, right at the camera or something, and it's just it became a real cliche, really cheesy, really cliche. They did it with Scream, they did it with I think Urban Legend, they did it with I Know What You Did Last Summer, they did it with I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, they did it with H2O, they did it with Resurrection. It was Jesus Christ, can you not find something? Can you not be a little more creative? So those two are dog shit. But then again, a lot of old school horror posters and movie posters and box art are really cool. So I don't know. Yeah. Let's see. Alex, Dodrill. Am I saying that right? Do you collect vintage horror VHS? I don't collect them, but I have all of my VHS. I have all my VHS. So they're in boxes under my stairs, and that's everything from that's some of them right there. That Halloween 4. Oh, there we go. That Halloween 4 is from 1988 or 1989, I guess. The Elm Street. Yeah, they're all the Elm Street, Halloween 2, Friday the 13th Part 3, the Blockbuster VHS of Halloween 1. Oh, yeah, I have a ton. I have a ton, more than I could fit back there. Okay, just making sure I didn't miss any super chats. Grave Warmer was the last one. Okay, cool. All right, and again, guys, if I miss your question, it's nothing personal. You guys know that. You should know that by now. Let's see here. Wally Payton says they were going to call it the Babysitter Murders. Irwin's idea was to call it Halloween. That's right. Yep, that's right. Well, it was Irwin's idea about babysitters as well. Because he was like, babysitting was really popular at that time. A horror movie, it's really simple. What can I do? Maybe about a killer why don't we just call it the Babysitter Murders? And then he was like, oh, wait a minute. Why don't we set it on Halloween? Because there hadn't been a movie that had been set on Halloween there hadn't been a movie even called Halloween. To his surprise. So, you're absolutely right on that. Absolutely right. The Hydra 92 says, who's your favorite movie score composer? Mine is Marco Beltrami and Bennett Salve. I haven't heard of those two guys. I got to go classic. I got to go John Williams. And I know that might seem like a bit of a cop-out. Oh, you got to go John Williams. Oh, that's so like... excuse me, Dave. No, he's one of the greatest cinematic composers in motion picture history. And I'm not talking about just the themes that he's created. We know his themes, whether it's Indiana Jones, Star Wars, The Imperial March, Superman. But think of all the other recognizable, iconic music that appears on the soundtracks of all these films that isn't the main theme. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's got so many pieces of music that aren't the title themes that it's unbelievable. So, yes, he is undoubtedly one of the greatest modern composers of all time. So I gotta go classic. I gotta say him. Yeah. Jeffrey Lane says, Dave, are you planning on watching Swamp Thing? Probably not. Yeah, I'm not into a lot of modern shit. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. Care about it. Not to say that it's not going to be good, but no. Jerpin, go Raptors. That's right. Go Raptors. The Raps, baby. The Raps. Let me see. Joe E says, hey, Dave, I think Michael Myers in Halloween 2018 was too big and brute. In the original, he was more slender in shape and less violent. I know you like the new Myers, but what do you think? Well, if you followed me for quite some time, you know that I think the quintessential Michael Myers is Nick Castle. Yes, if I was casting, no, I think James Jude Courtney is the best Myers we've had since Nick Castle. The most authentic sort of portrayal of Michael Myers since Nick Castle. He is a modernized version of that, but I do think that. But I think Michael Myers is, yes, I think the quintessential example, the perfect example of what Michael Myers was, and supposed to be, is the first film, Nick Castle. Yep. I agree. Let me see here. Scroll back, see if there's anybody else that I haven't got yet. Let me see here. Let me see. Stone Cold says, hey, Dave, thoughts on The Disaster Artist? I haven't seen it. I hear it's good, but I haven't seen it. Super chat from the Crystal Laker. Thank you very much, Crystal Laker. Dave, you're so awesome. I can't wait for your Halloween sequel idea video. I know, it's coming. It'll come. Thank you for saying I'm awesome. You're all awesome. No, you're awesome. No, you're awesome. You're all awesome, you sons of bitches. Bobby Hall, my biggest problem with H18 is that it's essentially the same story as H2O. It was a fun time, but didn't add anything new. No, I agree. Look, I've said this. I am not thoroughly convinced you will ever see a sequel to Halloween 2018. And I know people think that's crazy because it made, $250 million at the box office. But I think they will. I think you will get one. But I don't think there needs to be one. And I don't care if there ever is one. Because it just felt like a swan. It just felt like a fun little reminisce, and that was it. There was nothing about the movie that made me... I just really wish that... I agree with you. And I just really wish Laurie had died in the fire. That's what I wish. You've heard me say that 1,000 times on this channel. I understand why they didn't, but I just think it would have... To do that it just would have added so much weight. Her and the Shape die in the fire. And there's no breathing at the end credits. There's no breathing. They're gone. She sacrifices herself to save her daughter and her granddaughter. Whew. Man, that's powerful. But now it just... I don't know, man. Let's see here. The J Hookmaster, best time of year to visit Canada. Best time of year to visit Canada. Oh, the summer. Well, I guess it depends on what you want. If you're a big skier and a big snowboarder, then you're going to want to visit Canada in the winter, and you're going to want to go out to BC or to Alberta and go to the mountains out there, right? But if you're looking to just, nice weather, you want to come to a city that's vibrant and electric and exciting, then you're going to want to come to Toronto in June, July, August, maybe even September. I mean, let's not forget, like we live. Toronto is like Chicago in the sense that we're right on a Great Lake. So, and the Great Lakes are that's one thing that's one thing I'll get from people who've never seen the Great Lakes. They come to Toronto or they'll go to Chicago or something, and they'll look at they'll look at Lake Michigan, or they'll look at Lake Ontario where Toronto is, and they'll be like, looks like a fucking ocean. They're like, that's a lake? I'm like, yeah, it's a lake. It's a lake. It's gigantic. And Lake Ontario is the smallest of the 5 Great Lakes, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I say if you want to, but if you don't care about going skiing or snowboarding or whatever the case is, and you want to just go visit like the mountains and just go out west, go to BC. Go to BC. Yeah, there's never let's put it this way. When it comes to British Columbia and Vancouver, there's never really a bad time of year to go. If you go to Vancouver in the winter, yeah, it's winter, it's cold, but you got the fucking mountains and it's gorgeous. If you go in the summer, it's warm and you got the fucking mountains, it's gorgeous. You know what I mean? I wouldn't come to Toronto in the winter. It'd be like going to New York or Chicago in the winter. It's like, what the fuck you doing? Like, it's cold, it's windy. They don't call it the Windy City for, the Windy City for nothing, right? So my advice is if you're going to visit a city like Chicago, New York, or Toronto, come up in the summer for sure. 100%. Ethan LeBlanc, super chat. Thank you, Ethan. If Michael's mask had been something different, do you think he'd be as iconic as he is today? Would the movie had worked the same? I think there's a good chance of it, yes. There's no doubt that the mask is a big part of that success. But if everything else is the same and you utilize the character of Michael Myers in the same way, you utilize the shape in the same way, I think the movie still would have worked. Yes, I do. Because it's all relative, right? We would not have had anything else to compare it to. You would not have known that those masks ever existed. So your sole focus and attention would be on the mask at hand. And if it ended up being that like Emmett Kelly sort of sad, clown mask, this also would have been before Stephen King's It. So there would not have been that comparison as well. And I'm talking about even before the book It. So there would not have been that comparison as well. So it's all relative. So if you utilize him in the same way, in low-key lighting, in the shadows, in the darkness, slowly emerging from the darkness, all that shit, it probably would have been fucking creepy. Like, because it's a creepy mask. And if you utilize it in the correct way, I think it still would have worked. But I do think that mask is scarier in the right lighting. So that's my answer to that. Aaron Prito says, Chet, what is trolling? Chet, what is troll? Somebody's trolling? Oh, well, whatever. Let me see here. Let me go back. A couple of super chats. Ethan just answered your order. The Crystal Laker, thank you very much. You're like a martini without the woman. That's right. According to somebody who gave me some hate mail a little while ago, I am like the martini without the woman. I'm surprised they didn't say, you're like the martini without the woman, shaken but not stirred. That would have been an exclamation point on the finishing touches of that. That would have been awesome. But they didn't do that. What's fucking going on here? DJ Max says, what up, Dave? How it going? What up, DJ? Super chat Aaron Prito, thank you very much, Aaron. D, is Michael Myers the best horror villain ever? No. I think the best horror movie villain ever is Darth Vader. I think he is the absolute poster when it comes to villain. And there is no, you cannot diminish the role that James Earl Jones had in that. You know, I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due, and you got to give credit to David Prowse, who was the 6'6" or 6'7" bodybuilder, English bodybuilder who donned the costume. But without that voice, without that dark, menacing voice, I mean, it's iconic, and it helped to, you know, but at the same time, James Earl Jones could never have been in the costume. He doesn't have the physique. He doesn't have the height. So it's working together. You have David Prowse, who was this big hulking figure, right? You know, and he had that physical presence. And then you had James Earl Jones, who was the vocal presence, right? So it was a team effort. And I think I don't think there's a lot to argue, but I guess you could argue it. The greatest horror villain in cinematic history. 100%. Hands down. That doesn't mean there haven't been other great villains. There have been. But I think he is like when you think of villain, I mean, it's just, you can't get any more villain than Darth Vader. Because he was flawed as well. And all great villains have sort of a human thing about them. Gary Rangel says, Dave, I love H4O because of the original intent of the character and story. Like John Carpenter stated, your facts is the reason why I loved it. I think you, even though you seemed a bit down. Well, no, I thought Halloween 2018 was fine. I don't think it's a good Halloween movie. I don't think it is at all. It's not a good Halloween movie. There are moments in it that were good Halloween things. Yes. There were that was a good Halloween-y thing. That was a good Halloween moment. But I don't think it's a very good Halloween movie. I think it's really a movie of missed opportunities. I think it's a fine and acceptable, decent, modern-day horror slasher movie that works on those merits. I think it's fine. But that's why I gave it a C+. And I could have given it a C, just a C. But I gave it a C+ because there were certain things I'm like, well, that was kind of cool. Well, that was kind of, you know, and the soundtrack was good, and, you know, Laurie was good. But as a Halloween movie, I've only seen it I saw it twice in the theater, and I saw it once watching it with you guys live, doing a live stream. I have it on Blu-ray, and I haven't watched it. I don't know when I don't care to watch it, right? I don't care. I don't like it enough to watch it 10 times. I just don't. I don't think it's a very good movie. I think it's a good modern day horror film, but as a Halloween movie, I just don't think I don't think it's very good. And I'm not trying to knock the people that made the film. It's hard making movies, and they did a lot of things that they did right. But they did a lot of things that I just don't think work. And one of those big things, of course, is the humor, and, you know, I could go on, but yeah. But it's not easy making a movie, man, and it's tough. And my hat goes off them for it. Just was a fun movie to revisit. It was like a glorified, really professional fan film, almost, in some respects. Let's see. Oh, super chat. Thank you, Aaron Prito. Much appreciated. Dave, could Michael Myers defeat Jason? Oh, I hate these questions. Okay, well, realistically, probably not. But it depends on which Michael Myers you're talking about. If you're talking about Michael Myers from Halloween 1 and Jason from Halloween 2, yeah, maybe. If you're talking about Jason from Jason X and Michael from Halloween 1, probably not. If you're talking about Michael Myers from Rob Zombie's Halloween and Jason X, maybe. You know, like it depends. It's such a loaded question. I'm not sure. It all depends on which respective versions of each character you're talking about, right? Joe E says, I know you said you were at the Halloween premiere, Dave, but how do we know you were there? You didn't show you there watching the movie. Laugh out loud. Hope you get the reference. Yes, I think I do. I think I do get the reference. It's from my very first hate mail, isn't it? Isn't it? I think it is. I remember that. Yeah, I got a message from somebody saying, well, we know you were at the premiere, but how do we know you were there? We didn't see you watching the movie. Fuck, I can't believe you remember that. Yes, I remember that. I shot as much as I could. Like we were downtown Toronto, and we were at TIFF, because TIFF was on, obviously, at that time, because that's where the world premiere was. And I shot walking in. We were walking right by the red carpet. We didn't have passes to walk the red carpet, so I couldn't get onto the carpet. But we were right by it. Of course, I got, video of everybody was on the red carpet. And then we walked in, got a couple of t-shirts, got video of being inside the theater. And I got video of everybody on stage, and things like that. But of course, the moment the movie begins, I have to turn off, my camera. And this one guy sent a message. He was like, well, we know you were there, but how do we know we didn't get any video of you watching it? Fucking liar. You fucking liar. I love people like that. It's just awesome. I love email, or not emails, but messages like that. Just awesome. Aaron Ponder says, Child's Play, 50 million opening weekend? 50 million? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say I don't know what the projections are. Are the projections out yet? I don't know. I'm going to say, maybe it is. Maybe the projections are 50 million. I'm going to say Child's Play makes north of 30. North of 30, under 40. I'm going to say maybe 30 million, which would be very good for that movie. Let's see. David King. Hey, David. Hello, Dave. Sorry I'm late. No, this is impromptu. Go Raptors. Yeah, hey, for those of you that are just tuning in or tuned in late, for the first half hour of the stream, I just talked about Toronto and what I think of the city, and sort of talked about the misconceptions sometimes people from the States will have of Canada and Toronto specifically, because tomorrow night, the Raptors are game one. Game one, baby. Game one. And the American media, the American sports media, that is, has sort of come into Toronto, and they come to Toronto all the time anyway, because because it's Toronto. But specifically, they're heavily here now because of what's going on. So it's just kind of fun to see how to watch the American media and how they talk about Canada and Toronto and all the isms. I'm just like, oh man, that's not what happened. It's just funny. It's just funny. It's funny. But this is impromptu. Every now and then I like to be impromptu. I like to just keep it fresh. I like to keep you guys on your toes. You cannot know everything. Got to keep it fresh. If you know what to expect, it can get boring. It can get dull. If you know that there's a video every day, you might like it, but then it just wears thin. The novelty wears off. We got to keep each other on your toes, right? Right? Are you with me? You're fucking with me. I know you are. I know you are. You son of a bitch. You sons of bitches. I know you are. That guy, Dave, I just want to let you know that I quit my desk job. Yes! Yes, that guy just quit his desk job. You son of a bitch. Fast forwards 289. Huge fan, Dave. Keep up the great work. Thanks, buddy. Much appreciated. The Crystal Laker says, hi, Zach. I'm going to say hi, Zach, too. Hi, Zach. Let's see here. Go back, see if I missed anything. Jerbees? That's right, Jerbees. You guys remember that. You guys love that stuff. I will definitely, I haven't accumulated. It's funny, whenever I seem to do hate mail, I seem to get less of it after a video. Maybe because the people that are sending me it are a bit embarrassed, maybe, even though I don't call anybody out by name, because I don't want to do that. Maybe they're a bit embarrassed. They don't want to, maybe they realize it doesn't get to me, or I don't know. But I haven't accumulated. I think I got one not long ago, but once I accumulate enough again, I'll do a hate mail video 3, and we'll see what crazy shit. I love now that I get my assistant to send them to me, and I don't. So the first time I read them is when I'm doing it on camera. Maybe I'll do it live. Oh, a live hate mail video. That might be fun. We'll see, though. I don't have enough to do that yet. Ian David Strain says, can you wish Liverpool FC good luck on Sunday for the Champions League final? Liverpool FC, if you're watching, which you aren't, but if you are, but you're not, but if you will, if you might, who knows? I don't know. If you are, good luck on, Sunday? Sunday. Good luck on Sunday. Tear that field up. Kick that ball. Listen, soccer is known to have low-scoring games. You can watch a fucking soccer game, and you can watch the whole game, and it's 0-0. Or it's 0-0, as they say across the pond. I'm telling you right now, I want you to put 9 fucking balls into that net. 9-0, Liverpool. 9-0. Shock the world and score 9. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. But we'll settle for 2-1. The Smokey says, what if the new Halloween movie was set at Christmas time? Well, I still think you got to keep Halloween set on Halloween. After all, it's called Halloween. But like my little short fan film that I uploaded a couple of months ago, I shot that in the winter because it was February here. And I think it would be, I'm totally down with a Halloween movie taking place when a freak winter storm comes rolling through. And all of you, like I said during my last live stream, I think it was my birthday stream, all of you know, all of you who live in the Midwest of the United States, or you live in the Northeast of the United States, whether you're in, Boston, New York, Chicago, India, wherever it is, or if you're in Canada, you know that you can get a freak winter storm on Halloween. It doesn't happen often, and the snow is not likely to stay. It'll probably melt in the coming days, and then when winter really kicks in December and January, that's when, it'll come and stay. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that you could get a freak winter storm on Halloween. It is possible. I think that would be cool. A freak winter storm on Halloween where the trick-or-treaters got to go inside because this winter storm is rolling in. You got to batten down the hatches. The power goes out. The pumpkins are covered in snow and you can see the glow through the pumpkins, right? You know what I'm fucking talking about? And then you can utilize blood on the snow, the redness of the blood on snow and shit. And why not? I'm down for it. But having it take place at Christmas? Nah, because then it becomes Black Christmas. And I think you got to keep it on Halloween. That's what I say. That's what I say, you bastards. Aaron Ponder says, ready for the Top Gun sequel, Dave? I like Top Gun, but I was never really a big fan of it. So, it'll be fun for the nostalgia, I guess. Kevin Fitzpatrick says, Halloween during wintertime would be amazing. It happens every once in a while here in Ontario. That's right. Well, see, you're in Ontario. You know what I'm talking about. But even out in the east coast of the U.S., it happens too. Imagine Michael Myers. Well, that's what I was just saying. If you live in the Midwest of the United States, if you live in Ontario, if you live anywhere in Canada, if you live in the Northeast of the United States, you could get snow on Halloween. It's not, as I said, it's not likely to stay, until April. It'll probably melt, but it can happen. Cody Martin says, how I doing, my friend Dave? How are you doing? I don't know. How are you doing? I'm just busting your balls. Question. Do you think big movies should take fun opinions on future movies? Wait, do you think big movies should take fan opinions on future movies? Like Big Movie Co. send out a balloon message on random sites asking fans to contact for ideas? No, I don't. I think if there is... No, I don't. Because you cannot set that precedence. You just can't do that. You have to... You have to do what you feel is right. You have to put it out there, and you have to let chips fall where they may. If you are, that comes down to, and then that comes down to the studios and the producers. If you are working on a property that is heavily integrated into the world of fandom and pop culture, whether it's Star Trek, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Marvel, whether it's DC, whether it's a movie based on a video game that has a huge cult following, you have to hire people that are dialed in to the broader fandom. And then you limit the probability of making a movie that pisses fans off. Now, maybe you piss fans off because the movie wasn't very good, but you're not going to piss fans off because Sonic doesn't look like Sonic. You're not going to piss fans off because, what the fuck, Luke didn't, it's not going to be necessarily anything in terms of character development or in terms of, well, that character all through history has been dressed in red and you have him in blue. Why? It makes no fucking sense. Him in red is part of his identity. It'd be like shaving off Mario's mustache. Why are you shaving off Mario's mustache? Or now Mario has a goatee. Why? It doesn't make any sense. So if you hire the right directors and the right writers who are very dialed into the broader culture and mythology of these heavily involved, pop culture fandom IPs, you limit your probability of them fucking up in those areas because they know, they get it. Maybe they're fans themselves, right? Maybe they're fans themselves. That doesn't mean that you're going to like the movie because maybe you don't like the story. Maybe you don't like where they took it. Maybe it just was okay. It was fine, but there's not going to be that like blasphemous sort of like, what the fuck does Mario have a goatee? You know what I'm saying? Because you happen to hire somebody who just doesn't get it. He's a good director, he's fine, but he's not dialed in. He's not locked in, right? He's not fucking locked in, right? So, you can't do that. You have to make the proper decisions. You can't go to the fans. You have to hire the right people. You have to do your due diligence and hire the right people. And that comes down to writing, directing, producing. You gotta all be on the same page and locked in, and you have to do what you want to do in terms of what you think should be done as a creator and as an artist. But the second you start taking fan ideas, oh, no. No, you can't please everybody, folks. As Ricky Nelson said, you can't please everybody, so you got to please yourself. You have to do what you feel is right. You have to pay attention to the mythology. You have to honor what's come, before it and do what's right, but do what you feel, make it your own and let the chips fall where they may. That's what you got to do. DJ Max says, hey, Dave, do you think it'd be a good idea if John Wick have a crossover with the Fast and Furious? No. Nope. Hate crossovers. Don't like them. Don't want them. Philip Tresto P-L. Hopefully I said that right. How many times do I have to ask you, where did you get the Halloween poster? I don't know. How many times have you asked it? I have no idea. Keep in mind, Philip, remember that if I don't answer your question, it's never personal. We have 107 people watching right now, right? And on some streams, I can get like 180 to 200 people. So sometimes it'll just go by, and you guys know me, I'm very thorough with my question, with my answers. So I sometimes take a while and I can miss it, which is why I scroll back. Now there's the other option where I could just make the questions that are just nothing but super chats, and therefore you have to pay to ask me a question, but I don't want to do that. So, yeah, so that's why. So it's nothing personal, but thank you for asking it again. Where did I get that? He doesn't want to be named, but somebody who works for a major Hollywood studio sent that over to me. We'll just say that. Sent that over to me about a year or so ago now. Danita Brown, sorry. We had Halloween with snow some years back in Indianapolis. That's right. See, I was much younger then. Coats over, costumes, gloves, etc. It was great. Yeah, it's kind of cool, right? What an interesting sort of premise for a Halloween movie. It's something we haven't seen before. You don't necessarily have to make it like I don't know, though. I don't know. I would entertain the idea of a blizzard. It might be fascinating. Really utilize the storm as a character, right? The power goes out. You got to batten down the hatches. You got to turn on the heat. The creaking, the snow on the glass and on the windows and the blizzard. And I think it would be cool. I think it'd be really cool. Okay, did I miss a super chat? I did not. Okay, good. I always like to make sure I'm not missing them. Let's see here. Wayne Downey says, just don't play a song about a honky tonk. It'll be time to leave. What? Are you talking to somebody else? Maybe you're talking to somebody else. Let's see. The Shape Chases Allison. This is Aaron Ponder says The Shape Chases Allison should have been longer. Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said there. Yep, absolutely. Let me scroll back here, see what we got. We'll go for a few more minutes. It's hard to believe I've already been on almost 2 hours. Holy snapping crap. Holy snapping crap. I am going to post, I want to do just a regular video. I don't know if I'll be able to do the regular video tomorrow because I'm going downtown tomorrow to do some voiceover work to the studio. And then tomorrow night's the game. So I don't know if I'll get to a video tomorrow. Maybe on Friday. Hopefully. We'll see. There's a couple of ideas I have that I want to talk about, but we'll see. Jake V says, as someone who is 30 minutes from Detroit, thoughts on the Wings? The Detroit Red Wings? Well, I mean, they're a storied franchise, one of the original 6. My views are like that. Like, as you guys know, I'm a Buffalo Sabres fan. And the only time, but I cheer for the Leafs. You can't live in Toronto, one of the largest cities in North America. And, I mean, you can. But the way I look at it is I'm not a spiteful person in that sense. I want the Leafs to do well. I want the original 6 to do well because I think it's great for the game. Now, when the Sabres are playing the Leafs, I hope the Leafs die a miserable death. But if the Leafs are not playing the Sabres, I hope they do well. I would be thrilled if the Leafs won the Cup. I really would. They're sort of the laughingstock of the NHL right now because they haven't won the Cup since 1967, and they're called the Toronto Maple Laughs. And, everybody in Canada outside of, although they do have a big following, there's a lot of people that love to make fun of them. But I would love to see them win the Cup because I think anytime storied franchises, whether it's Detroit, whether it's Boston, which is on the track to winning another one, although I really hope the Blues win because they've never won. But anytime a storied franchise wins or does well, I think it's great for the game. It's great. Like, if the Red Sox and the Yankees do well, I think it's great for baseball. It sucks when they do really well because my Blue Jays are in the same division. So that always sucks when they do really well. But it's great for baseball. If the New York Knicks and the Boston Celtics and the LA Lakers do really well, even the Chicago Bulls, right? It's great for basketball. A rising tide raises all ships. And I think it's the same in hockey. So although I'm not a particular fan of the Red Wings, I think it's great when they do well. And I hope they do. Hope they continue to do. I think they did all. Well, they didn't make the playoffs, so I guess they kind of had a down season. My Sabres fucking haven't made the playoffs in like 10 years. It's fucking ridiculous. Oh, man. Let's see here. Heron Ponder says, you put some Canadian dough on the Raptors? No. No. Maybe I should, though. Maybe I should. I'll put my house on the Raptors. Manhammer AR15 says, Dave, do you think 2017 Happy Death Day babyface mask ripped off the Cupid mask from Valentine 2001? I don't know. I don't know. The Cupid... Let me just see here. No. It's not the same. No, I don't think so. Were they aware of it? Maybe, but it's not the same. I don't think so. Josh Pendergrass says, any advice on writing good dialogue for screenplays? It's my weakest point when writing. Okay, well, don't think too much about it. The best thing to do is you have to remember that dialogue, and I'm still learning this as well. Like I went to school for it, but good dialogue is usually always one of the toughest parts for any screenwriter. One thing to remember, or a couple things to remember is it has to be conversational in the way people speak, right? Don't be so formal with it. Don't be afraid to have characters cut people off, right? Don't be afraid to write gonna instead of going to, right? Because very rarely do I say, I'm just going to go to the store and I will be back in a minute. No, I say, I'm just going to go to the store and I'll be back in a minute. Right? So in the script, write gonna, Gonna, right? Write it. Have that ebb and flow of natural sort of conversation. And that's an important thing because if it feels too formal, it becomes too wooden. You know what I mean? And watch movies. Watch how people interact. Now, depending on the film and depending on the script, depending on the set and the movie, maybe there's a little room for some improv. I'll just say improv. Maybe there's some room. God, when you're talking as long as I have, you start to fumble over words. Maybe there's some room for some improv, right? And you can sort of, as long as you get the idea across, the writer and the director don't mind that you added a few things that maybe weren't in the script because you got the same idea across. But you never write a script with that guarantee. The best thing is to remember that the ebbs and flows of natural conversation, of how people interact, with each other. Now, you don't want to have people interrupting each other all the time, but if somebody's having like a conversation, don't be afraid to have that. Somebody jumps in and says something, gonna, shoulda, woulda, those types of things. Write that out. Write the slang out. Don't be so formal with your dialogue. That was one thing that I learned in school, and it helped me a lot. And it felt like it read a bit more natural, and you could read it because the person could actually say shoulda. You could actually write, damn, I should have done that, rather than saying, damn, I should have done that. You know what I'm saying? Because it actually says shoulda, So that stuff is really important. That's the only thing off the top of my head I can think of at the moment. And concentrate on good character development. Give your characters a backstory. Even if the audience maybe doesn't necessarily know the character's backstory. Maybe you will never introduce the character's backstory fully. You as the writer should know everything about the character you're writing for. And that will help you. You will implement that backstory through your writing. How the person says something, how they say something, what they say, their personality, right? You as the writer have to know everything about the characters you're creating. It's not just, it's a woman who's 25 with blonde hair and big boobs. That could be anybody, right? But she comes from a broken home and she's got a mole on her left cheek that she's ashamed of. And she's got a bit of a lisp. And she's cute though. And she's a bit shy, but she's always... Just saying that, you start to get more of a three-dimensional character, right? Even if you maybe not write all that, you know that, and it helps you write for those characters, and it'll help your dialogue as well. So hopefully, I could go on and on, but for the sake of this stream, hopefully that helped a little bit at the very least. Kind of just things to think about when you're writing. Laura Strapone, hey Laura, how are you? Dave, how does 40 and some days feel?
Well, it feels all right. Falling back down, falling in a bowl full of macaroons. What the fuck did I just say?
Hard to believe. 40. Howard D. Hey, Dave. Love the show. But for the next few weeks, we are enemies. Go Warriors. No!
You son of a bitch. You're going down.
Go Warriors. No, go Raptors. Dahlia Williams says, how can a 13-year-old get into film acting? Well, it depends on where you live. The best thing for a 13-year-old to do is to take an acting class, maybe some improv classes. Improv classes are great for kids because they're always fun and they get the kids up, they get the kids having fun, thinking on their feet. I'm not sure what city you live in, but that would be like first things first, right? To get some acting classes and some training behind them. It doesn't sound pretty, it doesn't sound glamorous, but that's what you got to do. You can't just don't go out and get headshots and get an agent unless your child has at the very least had a few classes under their belt. So that's what I would do, depending on where you live. If you live in the middle of Kentucky, well, that might be a bit difficult. But if you live anywhere near Toronto or Chicago or LA or New York or at some big metropolitan area, Atlanta as well, it might be a bit easier. But definitely get them involved in some acting classes, some kids acting classes, okay? Geared towards kids. Okay, we'll go for another 10 minutes, folks, and then I'll call it a evening. John Melancholy, Chucky looks great in the new TV spots. Yeah, I think he looks fine. I think the way he looks will be the least of the movie's problems. Whether we buy into Mark Hamill as Chucky, I don't know. But I think he looks fine. Ian David Strain, do you think Hannah's... Do you think... What are you talking about? Hyenas look like Michael Myers? I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Give me some clarification. Maybe I'm just having a brain fart because it's almost 2 hours on the stream and I'm just... We'll see. Let me see. The Guy says, Crystal Laker. I think it's certainly possible. Oh, he's talking to somebody else. Let me see. David King says, more enjoyable ending, Halloween 1 or 2. Favorite ending of the series? One. Way more. There's more left to be desired. There's more. I think it's more powerful of an ending because the message comes full circle. So I think 1. David Lee Barron says, what are your thoughts on Selena and her legacy? That's a loaded question. I admit, outside of the Jennifer Lopez movie from 1997, and of course a couple of Selena's most famous songs, I don't know a lot about her story. I know a little bit, but not a lot. So I don't really have an answer for that. I can't really say. And it's been years since I've seen the Jennifer Lopez movie, so I can't really answer that. Sorry about that, buddy. Dan Curley says, Dave, happy belated birthday. Do you think Godzilla hits big at the box office and we get more Godzilla movies after Kong versus Godzilla? I don't know, man. The critics have since come out, and I think it's dropped below 45% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Not that means you're not going to enjoy it. The big criticism seems to be that they have corrected the Where the Fuck is Godzilla from 2014's Godzilla. And you get a lot of Godzilla and a lot of other films. A lot of other monsters. But they still sort of come in weak in terms of characters and stories. Now, one could argue and say, well, who the hell goes to a fucking Godzilla movie to get lost in the narrative and the characters and the story? I agree, but that was one of my criticisms, if not my major one, with Gareth Edwards' Godzilla from 2014. Because although, I understand why people griped about not seeing Godzilla a lot, but the characters were so dull. And because you killed off Bryan Cranston in the first 15 minutes of the movie, essentially, the rest of the characters were weak, dull, and boring, and I didn't care about them. I wasn't emotionally attached to them. And if you're going to pull the Jaws effect, and keep your main antagonist at bay and dangle the carrot, well, when your shark or monster, whatever it is, when he's not on screen, you better hope that the characters are interesting enough that they carry the rest of the movie and we can get attached to them. We care about what they're saying. We care about what happens to them. We care about what they're going through. We care every time they're on screen. And the 2014 film did none of that for me. But it also didn't have a lot of Godzilla. So it was like, what the fuck, right? This new movie apparently has corrected the Godzilla part, but apparently the characters are kind of still subpar. So I don't know, maybe for me, because I just want to see Godzilla tear some shit up, maybe it'll even itself out and I'll be like, well, yeah, the characters were kind of bland, but fuck, was I entertained. I mean, maybe that's how it'll be. I don't know. But Godzilla movies in general don't do astronomically well in the United States. They never have. I mean, they do fine, but they're not like billion-dollar movies. So, I don't know. It was tracking earlier at like 40 or 50 million, which is not good for a movie that costs that much, that also has a King Kong versus Godzilla movie coming that's in the bag. Like, it's done, signed, sealed, and delivered. They're in post right now. So, I don't know. I'm going to go see it. I hope it's well. I hope it's good. Hey, see what I just said there? I'm gonna go see it. So whoever asked the question about the dialogue, remember that. Flow, ebb and flow, natural, how people talk. Now, don't get so crazy where everything is like, slang. You have to, it's generally speaking, right? Okay, 5 more minutes on the stream. I'm going to have to change the title. I'll change the title, What is Toronto Like? And then I'll just, I guess it was Toronto to like Impromptu Live AMA, taking your questions, whatever. I don't know. We'll see. Love talking to you guys. Howard D says, this one is technically part 3. Yes, that's right. Well, no, the Godzilla movie is part 3? No, it's not. It's part 2. King Kong. You're talking about King Kong versus Godzilla? Yeah, that's part 3. Soul Gestal 94 Maybe I'm reading it wrong. I'm just being skip on my question, Dave. I'm just being skip on my question. I'm lost. Sorry, buddy. Hey, Noah Haney says, congrats on the Raptors. Yeah, go Raps. Go Raps. They're taking it. I'm telling you. The Raptors, I think, could take a 2-0 series lead. I don't know if they will, but it would not surprise me if going back to Oakland, they're up 2-0. What would happen if they go up 3-0 in the series? Then the Warriors win game 4, and they're going back to Toronto. Oh, my God! Listen, the Warriors are an amazing team, but I don't think this will be I don't think the Warriors are going to sweep. I don't think it'll be a cakewalk. And if the Warriors do sweep, I think it'll be like a tough game every game. But we'll see. Fingers crossed. Come on, Toronto. Dan Curley says, how about those Bruins, Dave? Yeah, I'm rooting. I got to admit, though, I'm rooting for the Blues because they've never won. And it's weird to see the St. Louis Blues in the Stanley Cup final. I mean, come on, right? So I'm rooting for them. But if the Bruins won, it's good for hockey. It's good for hockey. They're a storied franchise. Howard D says, Kong Skull Island is 2. Yes, it's the third. I see what you're saying. It's the third in the franchise. Yes, yeah. Okay, couple more minutes here. Let's see. Couple more minutes, folks. Couple more minutes. Get your questions in. A couple of more minutes. I just pretend H8 doesn't exist. That's good. That's good. Joe E says, Dave, what is your favorite movie of all time? Too difficult to answer. Way too difficult to answer. Favorite movie of all time? I don't know. So many. I mean, whatever happened to Baby Jane, Shawshank Redemption, Rear Window, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Empire Strikes Back, Halloween, All About Eve, fuck, so many great ones. It's so hard. I don't know if I can pick. I don't know if I have an you know what? I might have an absolute favorite, but it's tough. I'll have to think about it. David King says, better chance to flop, new Chucky or new Terminator? Well, it's all relative. It depends what you consider a flop, right? I think the new Terminator has a bigger chance of flopping because of what they're spending on marketing, how much a movie costs. Like, you have to remember, it's all relative to what they make at the box office. So I think Terminator has a bigger chance of flopping. What's the budget for Child's Play 2019? Do we know? Oops. Do we know what the budget is? We don't. Let me just see here. 2019 budget. Okay. The budget is, we don't know. It's probably a, I don't know, $10, $20 million picture, maybe. Can't be that much. I'm just looking at other sources here. Yeah, the budget for the movie's not, I don't know what that is. And the budget for Terminator Dark Fate, yeah. Like, it all depends, right? You know what I mean? Like, Halloween 2018 was, cost $10 million to make. But you're going to double that, maybe triple that, for marketing. So by the time Halloween 2018 made about $40 or $50 million, it started to be profitable, right? So you got to remember those things too. Like, I think Terminator Dark Fate has a bigger chance of being a flop financially. A flop critically, I don't know. Not sure. That's a good question. All right, we're getting down to the wire, folks. Down to the wire, ladies and germs. Jim D says, Dave, best of luck in the NBA Finals from a lifelong heartbroken Sixers fan. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hey, didn't the Golden State Warriors beat the... Oh, no. That's right. No, we played the Sixers. I was thinking the Celtics. Sixers, Celtics. Yeah, I know. Kawhi Leonard. There it is. It's up. It's in. My apologies. Let's hope we can take the Warriors. David Lee Barron says, is Clint Eastwood a legend for you? Oh, Clint Eastwood is objectively a cinematic legend. Absolutely. Not just for me, but yes, he is. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for me on this impromptu live chat on this Wednesday, May the 29th, 2019. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all those who contributed via Super Chats. I think you guys are awesome as well. And I like to do this every now and then, keep you on your toes, do an impromptu, coming out of nowhere, doing some Super Chats. And yeah, that's gonna do it for me. And like I said, I got some ideas for a couple more videos that I want to do. So I'm hoping maybe I might be able to get one up tomorrow, but it all depends on how tomorrow goes, because it's a busy day, and of course the Raptors game is tomorrow night, and so we'll see. But yeah, hey, if you're not following me on Facebook, follow me on Facebook. The link is in the description. If you're not following me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. The link is in the description, and all my other links are down there as well. So in the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you guys soon. Take care of yourself, and as Jerry Springer would say, and each other. All right.